Hey, reseller friends. Welcome to our webinar on bookkeeping and inventory management. I'm going to give people just 2 minutes to come on in and join us. And in the meantime, tell us in the chat where you're tuning in from. Oh my goodness, so many people here. Hey, everyone. Wow. I see so many reseller friends. Hey, welcome. All right, we're going to give people just 2 minutes to join and then we'll get started. Where's everyone listening from? Tell me in the chat. Oh my goodness, so many places. Jersey, Washington, Arizona, New Jersey, to New Jersey, Idaho, Washington, Hawaii. I want to be there right now. It's so cold here in Massachusetts. Kansas, California, Nashville, LA, lots of Long Island too. My friend, the frugal fashionista, is from the Long Island area. Florida, nice. All right, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. All right, welcome to our Vendoo webinar. Workshop, Inventory Management and Bookkeeping with Vendoo. Here at Vendoo, we host monthly workshops and webinars to help our users learn how to maximize Vendoo and all the tools we provide you to work more efficiently and, of course, make more money. This is the best time to host a workshop like this. First, because it's the new year, so we can establish new tools and new habits to work more efficiently with Vendoo. And also because it's almost tax season, the worst time of the year. But today you'll learn about many Vendoo tools and features that will make that season a little bit less painful. I'm Erin. I'm a product specialist here at Vendoo, and I'm also a multi-platform reseller myself. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. You'll notice that this is a webinar style Zoom. It's a little different than your traditional Zoom. If you would like to ask a question, please do so, not in the chat, but in the Q&A box. That's right at the bottom of your screen too. They pop up as individual questions for me. So rather than scrolling through the chat, I can make sure I address each and every one. And I will be taking questions, of course. As an agenda for today's workshop, we're going to talk about all of the administration involved in reselling, inventory management, and bookkeepers for the multi-platform reseller. First, we'll talk about the Vendoo Form and how the tools within the Vendoo Form help us to manage our inventory and do bookkeeping. Then we'll specifically talk about Vendoo's superior inventory management system. We'll focus on custom labels, as those are an inventory management tool to help you work more efficiently. Then we'll talk about CSV Spreadsheets. We'll talk about profit and revenue tracking, analytics, and we'll talk about new multi-quantity listings all throughout the way. Vendoo just released multi-quantity listings yesterday. So if you sell units in more than one quantity, Vendoo has you covered. And as we go through this presentation, we'll talk about how to handle multi-quantity listings specifically, each step along the way. And make sure you stay until the end because we'll be announcing some new updates and fun things coming to Vendoo in 2023. All right, and let me share my Vendoo screen. There's so many reseller friends here. Thank you everyone for joining. And if someone could just confirm in the chat that you can see my Vendoo screen, pretty please. Oh, I see the chat going off. That must mean you can see it. Awesome. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a super basic thing, and that is the Vendoo form. So whether you import your items or you list them right in Vendoo, which is faster and better, either way, you will end up at the Vendoo form. You'll end up there after you import when you open your item, or you'll end up there starting when you create a new item. And this form is really important. In addition to the information that's obviously necessary for your listings, like your brand, title, etc., there are also some fields in here for you, for your inventory management system. Really taking advantage of all these tools will keep everything in order, especially because we're going to talk about how you can download spreadsheets that itemize all of this information. So one example is SKU. If you use a SKU system, like a numbering system to find your items, we have a field for that. You could also use this field to know anything you want, maybe the items in your upstairs closet. This allows you to use Vendoo as a system for you to physically find your inventory, because that's half the battle, right? Inventory management is both electronic as it is physical. Vendoo's got you covered for managing electronically all of the details, but also electronically providing you with the place to go find your items physically when they sell. Some other fields on this Vendoo form that are hidden are special for you. So the idea here is when you have your cost of goods, of course, you can enter your cost of goods per item. As I show you all of the Vendoo tools like profit and revenue tracking, analytics, and your spreadsheet, this number will be very important for those calculations and tools being effective for you. Another field here is Vendoo labels, and we're going to talk about these in a lot more depth, but since we're here, these are what I'd consider color-coded stickers that you can stick on your inventory electronically to help you manage it. You can assign your own tags, essentially, that you create, and you can do so right on this form. And another is notes. The notes feature is wonderful because it's hidden notes for you, whether that's the location of your item or a note to self that something requires your attention. You will never forget that your item has a note. And here's why. If this shirt has a note, you'll see that once I look at this item on my drafts here, I have this giant note icon. I won't forget it. It's hoverable so I can see my note. So labels, notes, and those fields on the Vendoo form are all integral to kind of execute to the best of your ability or as relevant, and they'll make a lot more sense as we go forward. But before we do go forward with inventory management, I also want to show you one other thing. This is a really big deal. Listing templates. If you are not using Vendoo listing templates, you are missing out because they will save you so much time and they'll help with your inventory management. You can create custom templates in your account preferences here where you see your template manager. So these are ones that you make for yourself. I'm very clearly a fashion seller, so mine relate to all different types of fashion. How will this help you with inventory management? Well, you'll always have your inventory info in Vendoo. When I get home from the thrift store or however I've acquired inventory, I enter my info into Vendoo right away. With that one click, I've applied my jeans template, and now I can add a basic title, Levi's 501, my cost of goods, and save. And now this information is available in Vendoo. Just like that, Vendoo knew the date that I acquired the item, today, a basic title of what it is, and it knew the category because in my listing template, I've pre-selected the category and I entered the cost of goods. Just like that, in 3 seconds, all of my inventory management is kind of controlled. My death pile, if you will, is in Vendoo. I can download it in a spreadsheet with all of the important, crucial information that I need for tax prep, which at this stage in the listing process is the date acquired and the cost of goods. Templates just make it that much easier because I've pre-selected various pieces of information on this form, namely the category, so that Vendoo can track that and so that that's available in my inventory spreadsheet as well. So let's talk about inventory management. Vendoo is so much more than just a cross-listing platform. We have superior inventory management for reselling, and you are talking to a seller who has tried it all. I literally started in a notebook several years ago, and then I graduated to my very own spreadsheet. And man, that was a train wreck. I spent a lot of time in Microsoft Excel, and I was left with a document that was still never completely accurate. One of the biggest struggles for me when I was growing my reselling business was this. It was inventory management, having the physical and the electronic system that keeps track of what I have, all of my numbers and info necessary for bookkeeping and tax prep and just practical purposes, where it's listed, when it sells, and all those sales details, and doing it on multiple platforms because some are better than others with giving us things like reports and sale details. I've tried many different products, some of which were really costly, but none of them do what Vendoo does, because Vendoo is made for this, for me, for you, the multi-platform reseller that needs to keep track of all of this and doesn't want to spend a lot of time doing it because it's not fun. Here on my main inventory screen, you can see my listed death pile in drafts. Like I said, I create these drafts the moment that I come back from the thrift store. And that way it's all in here. They all have titles. Some of them have started to have images, and eventually they'll get the drop downs, the listing descriptions, and they will become active. When you click on your active status, of course, you're looking at your items that are currently listed. Look how much we can see here before we even open an item, right? This is a jacket that we can see is clearly listed on eBay, Etsy, Mercari, Grailed, Poshmark, Depop, etc. These are all clickable, by the way, so I could take myself to my live listing. I can see that I acquired this piece of inventory on November 7th. It's listed for $65. My quantity is 1, and my SKU is 4949. Now, when I open this item, of course, I'll see even more details. This is the Vendoo form. I can't encourage you enough to execute it entirely for 2 purposes. 1, because it's all there when you decide to start cross-listing to more and more platforms. And for 2, because of the bookkeeping and inventory management that we're here today to talk about. You'll notice I said quantity. We're going to talk about multi-quantity listings, but that is now available as a field to everyone on the Vendoo form. If there were 2 of these, I'd change it to 2, which would automatically add my Vendoo custom label. And I'll show you a little bit more as to how those are managed in just a moment. So we talked about status. We talked about how we can see our drafted and active. And of course, we can see our sold too. Again, before I even open an item, I can see so much information about all of them. I can see that this item I acquired on October 6th. I listed it for $24. I sold it January 16th on Poshmark. Now, when I open this item, here are all the sales details. And we'll talk more about this when we together mark an item as sold. But Vendoo has it all here for you. Everything active, drafted, and sold. The entirety of your reselling history from when you start using Vendoo. And there's so many ways to look at these listings. We can search by title or SKU. So typing in pink is going to yield a lot, 176 listings. We can narrow that down by typing in pink dress, where we yield everything with those words in the title. Similarly, when I type in 123, I'm yielded my coat SKU 123, as well as my normal SKU 1,231, because those characters are in my SKU. If you used letters rather than numbers for your SKU, that would work in a similar manner. Another cool feature is the ability to view items by marketplace. So I can see what is listed on Depop. Or if it's time to cross-list, I could even look at what is not yet listed on Depop. As a tip, you might use these collaboratively with some of the filters. I might look by the priced highest and prioritize the cross-listing of these items, as they're likely the ones that would yield the most profit, excuse me. So speaking of that, we can also view by your date created, newest and oldest, your date modified, so you've gone into an item to make a change, your most recently listed or your stalest, alphabetically both ways, price both ways, and SKU both ways. So let's talk about stalest here. What is stale? Stale means it's been the longest since you have listed or relisted an item. So the longest since you've had a brand new listing. Vendoo has a stale listing warning indicator, and this is an optional customizable setting that you'll see in your account settings. When you come here to your preferences, here is your stale listing warning system. You can ask Vendoo to warn you when your items are stale. Now, to be clear again, stale means that X amount of days have elapsed since your item has been listed or relisted. You can control the X. You can set how many days you would like to elapse before Vendoo tells you that your listing is stale. I have mine set to 60, and that's why when we scroll through my inventory, you're seeing some of these yellow warnings. This item is stale because I've asked Vendoo to tell me that once it's been 60 days. And as you can see here on both Grailed and Depop, it has been 66. So that's just another cool feature that we have embedded here so that you can remember to relist and make more sales. Let's talk about searching by custom label. You can search by custom label as well. Vendoo custom labels, I want you to think of like color-coded electronic stickers that you can stick on your inventory for your own management purposes. There are so many ways that our users use Vendoo labels. One would be source. So I had purchased a few boxes from Cozy Threads, and I was particularly excited about tracking the exact profit and performance of those items. So I went ahead and I added a Vendoo custom label that says Cozy Threads. This enables me to search by just these items, to look at just these items on my spreadsheet by filtering, and also to look at them on analytics, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There are so many ways to use Vendoo labels. Another great way to use them is action items, maybe items to ship or to donate or that require your attention. These items I've tagged because something within them requires my attention. These are also great if you're working with employees or VAs to tag certain listings for them to work on. I also use them for consignment clients. So I sell items for other people, like many of us probably do. And here I have tagged all those items. I actually recently did a delist and relist on them so I could hopefully push some more of them. And I did that very quickly by searching my inventory page for just items with that tag. There are a million ways to use them. And if you're interested, Team Vendoo is going to put the blog article in the chat right now. That's all about custom labels, how to create them, and many ways to use them. Speaking of how to create them, again, just like your stale listing warnings and your templates, all of your personalizable, customizable settings can be found here in your preferences. Here, you can create the labels, change the colors. We just added new colors, and I'm so happy because I am a color coder. You can view your items with it, change your titles, etc. We also have bulk tools to edit those labels, and I'll show you that when we talk about bulk actions. Those are the main ways to kind of control and use different tools with your inventory. We recently released even more though. These are advanced filters, and they're exactly what they sound like. They're even more advanced inventory tools that allow you to organize and segment certain items. So we have quite a few different advanced filters. We have date sold, date created, last modified date, listed date, and import origin. So these are more advanced for when you're trying to target specific pieces of item, specific categories of items. So for example, if I wanted to look at what I sold in December, I could click date sold and use this interactive calendar to select my date range. And now I'm taken directly to the 82 items that I sold in December. These advanced filters make organizing your inventory even easier. A couple other fun things that you'll see here on your Vendoo screen include the ability to do bulk actions. So here is where you could multi-delete inventory if for some reason you were deleting. You could multi-delist and relist, which is a game changer tool that I hope you're using. You could multi-just delist, and we can multi-edit Vendoo labels. So if you wanted to add or delete those color-coded electronic stickers in bulk, you can select those and perform either action, even creating a new label right from this screen. But the coolest and one of the most underrated inventory features of Vendoo is the spreadsheet. There is no need to keep your own spreadsheet when you use Vendoo, not for your inventory anyways, because all of the information that Vendoo has, namely the fields on the Vendoo form or the details that you enter when you mark as sold, that's all available. Right here under multi-actions, you can go to export to CSV. Here you can create a CSV. CSV is just a fancy acronym for a downloadable, editable spreadsheet. It's compatible with any software. Excel, Apple Numbers, Google Docs, even tax preparing softwares. It's a CSV. You can select a date that you'd like to download. And because I have a large inventory, I'm going to demonstrate with just 1 month of inventory. And you can customize what you'd like in your spreadsheet. You can download everything at any time, even your images. So I probably, if I were creating a spreadsheet right now for an inventory report, let's say, I probably wouldn't include my images, but I would choose what I would like to include. So title, brand, I'd probably like, I don't really need the tags. I'd want the SKU category, price, listed and sold dates, where it's listed, where it's sold, any of those notes that you have, your hidden notes, your costs, marketplace fees, shipping expenses, labels, and your quantities left and sold. When I click generate CSV here, it's literally generating a spreadsheet. So the reason I draft my death pile is because now I have a spreadsheet. This is my inventory report and my sales report all in one. Can we still see my screen with this new pop-up? Just making sure, because sometimes Zoom's a little, no, you can't see. That's why. Let me reshare. I can only share one tab at once sometimes, not the whole screen. Now we should see a spreadsheet. I opened it in Apple Numbers, and here it is. It doesn't contain the things I unselected like pictures, but it's a spreadsheet. I can't believe how many hours I used to spend keeping this and maintaining this myself. It's like Vendoo just does it for you while you use Vendoo by providing it just a little bit of extra info that would take way longer to administrate if you were doing it on your own. This is the coolest feature. It will make your tax prep and your business day-to-day inventory management and everything so much easier. I highly encourage you to utilize that very cool feature. Before I move on, I'm going to check the question box. Just a friendly reminder to please put questions right in the Q&A box rather than the chat. That way I can make sure I address each and every one. Someone said for the solds, can you add the profit number on the view from sold tab? Nope, you'll have to open the item and we're going to do it together. So I'll show you how. On the analytics, there are a few suggestions here, which we love to hear. Our team Vendoo's here. I'm also at the end, though, going to give you the formal form to make those suggestions directly to our development team. If you didn't know, Vendoo literally releases features and platforms based on your requests. So if there's something you want to see, I'm going to give you the official request form so that you can log that and you will be heard. You bought something today using a draft, but since it was created, oh yeah, so you created your drafts early. So the date that you obtain the item, the date that you create the draft will show as the date that you obtained the item. That is correct. Okay. You create your listings in eBay rather than importing. Okay. And you'd love to be able to create your listings from Vendoo. I recommend that you do. Will there be information to input when you cross list? So when you start your listings right in Vendoo, it's actually even faster than listing on the platforms. Because once you fill out that Vendoo form, the information will trickle down to your eBay form. Now, if you're an advanced eBay seller, there are some actions you might choose to control in your eBay seller hub in bulk that we don't have in Vendoo, like store category and promotions. We don't have those because they're not relevant to all eBay users, but you can control those with just a few clicks in bulk right in your seller hub after listing from Vendoo. Can you download by a platform only? That's a great question. So you can't download your CSV by platform only, but once you download your CSV, you can filter by platform only with just 2 clicks. So in that sale platform tab, you search by just, for example, Poshmark and see just your items that sold on Poshmark. It's an editable and personalizable spreadsheet. So once you download it, you can do filter, sort, add, delete, control to all of your preferences. How do you match your purchase receipts to your inventory list? You'd need the date of purchase and the vendor. How do you match your purchase receipts to the inventory list? I just do it by date acquired. Single vendor, but I certainly could with a custom label if I chose to. You add notes. Someone asked how to add notes. That's right in the bottom of the Vendoo form. Okay, I'm going to take just a few more and then I'm going to move on just to make sure that we get through everything we have to get to, and we'll take even more at the end. If you import your listings to Vendoo and then you want to delist and relist in Vendoo, will it have problems with the required fields? Once you import, there might be some info missing that the platform didn't require. So you might have a couple clicks to do, but only the first time. Someone asked about Vestiaire. It is in development and coming soon. Stay tuned for more updates. All right, these are really great questions. Thank you everyone so much for your participation. So let's talk about the profit and revenue tracking. I know personally, this was one of my biggest struggles when I started cross-listing to multiple platforms, because I came from Poshmark, where I'm very spoiled, right? When an item sells, Poshmark gives me this really nice little report. It says your item sold for this amount, our fee was this amount, and here is your profit. To my surprise, not every platform does that for us. In fact, if you sell on Depop, you know that they're one of those platforms that has no tools almost for us sellers. And it can be really complicated to track your profit on one item sold on Depop, because think about it. You have a cost of goods. You have a depop fee, which by the way is like 2.9% plus like 10 cents. So we're getting real crazy with these percentages. You might have offered free shipping, so you have a shipping cost. There's a lot of numbers that go into that. So if you're doing that manually, kudos, you're better at math than I am. And if you're using a spreadsheet, you're just spending too much time, because watch how amazing Vendoo is. We're going to mark 2 items as sold. We're going to mark a multi-quantity item as sold, and we're going to mark a regular item as sold. Let's start with the regular. I sold a pair of Timberland boots this morning on Poshmark. Let me grab that item. I spelled Timberland wrong. Timberland boots. So as you can see, these are listed on eBay, Mercari, Grailed, and Depop as well. So I'm going to market list it. And the beauty is that Vendoo is going to do 2 things. It's going to delist it from everywhere else. Love that. But it's also going to do all of that essential calculation for my bookkeeping and my tax prep. So I'm going to hover over the platform where it's sold. Poshmark actually sold for full price, and my cost of goods was actually 0. I'm going to enter 1 here just for demonstrational purposes. It automatically calculated my marketplace fees based on Poshmark's fees. Now, this isn't true with all platforms, because some platforms have multiple ways for the buyer to pay, which might affect fees. But for others, like the simple ones, if you will, Poshmark, Mercari, we do automatically calculate those fees for you. My shipping expenses were 0. Now, if I paid for shipping or offered discounted shipping, I would probably put them here, or I could combine them with the marketplace fee. But it's important to know how this formula works. What this formula is going to do is it's going to take the sale price, $125. It's going to subtract the Poshmark fee, $25. Subtract the cost of goods, $1. Subtract any shipping expenses. The magic happens when I click the pink mark as sold button. Right now, Vendoo is delisting this from everywhere else it was for sale. Before I could finish that sentence, it took it off 4 other platforms, and it instantly did all of that math that I was describing. The marketplace, the sale price, the fees, the cost of goods, and the shipping expense to instantly and accurately determine my profit. And this information is available in the spreadsheet. So literally bookkeeping or tax prep is just downloading a spreadsheet. If you're using Vendoo to its full capacity and entering this info as you use it, all of the boring administration is done for you. So let's talk a little bit more about multi-quantity listings, because what happens with those? You sell wine, what happens? So we talked briefly about how you can change the quantity of an item. Okay, so these are all of my multi-quantity listings. I could open any of them and I could change the quantity. Now, and I would do that in the Vendoo form. Once you change the quantity to more than one, we automatically add this multi-quantity button. I actually sold this item this morning, so we are going to mark this as sold as well. And I sold this on, usually I have a cheat sheet here that I can reference with my actual details, but excuse me momentarily while I go to my sales. I sold this on Poshmark for $25. So I'm going to do the same way for multi-quantity that I would for a regular item. I'm going to mark it as sold. I'm going to enter any of my sales details. And as you can see right here, Vendoo is going to walk you through how this works, okay? Because multi-quantity is a thing in Vendoo now, but it's not a thing everywhere. eBay has multi-quantity, Etsy has multi-quantity, Poshmark has multi-quantity, Mercari does not, Grailed does not, Depop does, Facebook does for some categories and some users. It varies. And Shopify does, but it's a little bit of a different experience. So it's interesting that how Vendoo can accommodate having your multi-quantity items, but also letting you list to places that might or might not allow it. So Vendoo will walk you through each step of the way. So right here, it says how multi-quantity works in Vendoo. We will manage the quantity of your item within Vendoo, but you might need to manually manage the specific marketplaces. So as you can see right here, I have 2 of these rings and I just sold one. So I will be left with 1 ring. So Vendoo is telling me that Mercari will have 1 listed, which it always did because Mercari does not have multi-quantity. eBay will have 1 listed and Poshmark will still have 1 listed. And the one thing that I need to do as a seller is I need to manually edit my quantity in eBay, right? Mercari still has 1 that it always had because Mercari only has 1. Poshmark knows that I only have 1 left now because I sold the other on Poshmark. The one thing I need to do is I need to change the quantity of the ring in eBay. So when I click mark as sold, you'll see here that the sale details happen the same way. In fact, I can get a sales history of all of the units of this item. I sold 1 on January 5th for $30 on Poshmark. And you can see my profit there was 17. Now I sold my second today. My profit there is 15. The only step left for me, which Vendoo told me, is to view my eBay listing here and to manually edit that quantity. That's the one step Vendoo can't do for us just yet, but it's also the one step that we probably want to maintain control of because the way that all of these marketplaces handle multi-quantity so differently. Now, I know that that was a lot and it's a little bit confusing. Thankfully, Vendoo's made it as clear as it can with the step-by-step specific and customized instructions as to where you sell. If there are any questions before I talk about analytics, please pop those right in the Q&A. Someone said they had some sales this year before they started with Vendoo. Should you import, list, and delist and edit info to get data? So it's really up to you. If you want your full year of 2023 in Vendoo, your spreadsheet perfect, your inventory perfect, your analytics perfect, the answer is yes. But I wouldn't take the time to import. I would just create, well, first of all, you can't import a sold listing except on eBay. So what you'd have to do is like create a copy of the listing to import that and then delete the listing. That's a whole lot. What you could do is quickly make a draft right in Vendoo. So if you sold, if you just started, Vendoo this week and you sold jeans last week, you might write Levi's jeans and create a draft because you can even mark a draft as sold. So that is something. And actually, let me show you how to do that. This brought up a great question. So you can mark items as sold, even if they're drafts and even if they sell outside of Vendoo. So for example, if I sold let me pull up a different item that's not multi-quantity here. Oh, I'm in multi-quantity. That's why they all are. Let me pull up an item here. Now, if I sold this item somewhere else, rather than hovering over the platform where it's sold, I would click these three dots and I would click mark as sold. Here, in addition to all of the Vendoo platforms, you can mark items as sold anywhere. So we also have Vestiaire, ThreadUp, Instagram, Amazon, Curtsy, Vinted, The Real, In Person, Whatnot, Craigslist, OfferUp, Thrilling, and other. So if I marked this item as sold on Thrilling, for example, Vendoo would go through the same process. It would delist it everywhere it's for sale. It would do the profit and revenue calculating. My spreadsheet would reflect where it's sold, and so would my analytics that we're going to talk about in a moment. But you can also mark even a draft as sold. So let's say you're a live seller, right? And you have items drafted in Vendoo, and you do that because Vendoo is your inventory management system, but you never listed it, right? You sold it on Whatnot Live. If I sold these Levi's 501 jeans on Whatnot Live, I could mark these for sale. Let's do it together. So we're going to mark these as sold. We're going to mark these as sold on Whatnot. I hadn't really entered any information here, but we'll pretend that they sold for 20. We'll pretend that the marketplace fee was 5. We'll pretend that I didn't pay for shipping. And as you can see here, I marked just this draft as sold. It doesn't have all the information, so it shows some missing. But now that that's in there, we'll see how it works on analytics. That was a great question. All right. Do you have to put the complete marketplace fee, or does Vendoo figure it out? For some platforms, it figures it out. For some platforms, you'll have to enter it. You'll have to enter it on platforms that accept multiple payments, because the fee couldn't always be accurate because we could never anticipate how your buyer pays. So if that's the case, go right to your app or website for where it's sold and look at the fees that were taken out. You don't have good bookkeeping for the past year. It was your first year selling and you have receipts and cost of goods for some items, but not all. You'll use the Vendoo forms going forward, but how do you manage taxes for last year? So that's a super specific question, and it's going to sound like the lamest advice ever, but it's important. And that is to talk to a tax specialist. Generally, I shouldn't even give general advice really, but in my experience, I learned that myself and most resellers don't necessarily always require individual items. A starting year balance and an ending year balance are very important numbers that you could deduct based on your own receipts and bank statements, but you'll want to talk to a professional to help you with that. But it brought up a good point. Your starting and ending balances are both available for you in Vendoo once you do start using it, because you can filter your spreadsheet by custom date range. If you sold you need to delist or sold a damaged item, what is the best practice? So you can delete items in Vendoo. Of course, you'll want to delist them. You could also mark as sold and mark them as a loss. I think it really depends again on how you're running your business. If you're selling as self-employed versus selling as an LLC owner, you might have different benefits associated with loss versus donate. Again, you should really talk to an account specialist. Full disclaimer here, I am a reseller, not a tax specialist. It's so important to talk to one. I never thought it was necessary for years, and I was missing really valuable deductions and spending more money than I had to. And my personal tax situation, an LLC was really beneficial for me and my family. And that's not something anyone online, including myself, can really give you. A certified licensed tax specialist in your state that it has gained an intimate understanding of your income streams, your marital situation, your housing, if you have children, if you have dependent, all of these factors, the volume of sales, right? How much you're making. These factors collectively should be analyzed by someone that's certified to do so, because they can offer personalized advice. And my best advice is to talk to them. I wish I did so much sooner. I will say, however, and I was going to talk about this at the end, we have teamed up with a reseller tax specialist that has a lot of general information, and we'll be publishing some amazing content coming very soon. That will be a great place to start if you're brand new here. That'll give you kind of a foundation of knowledge and a basis to help you understand best practices and kind of how to organize the stuff before you even speak with someone. Can the shipping be modified to handle a negative number? A credit for an overcharge? No, so shipping can't accommodate a negative number. If you made money on shipping, you might choose to like add those few dollars on, say, to the sales price. You can manipulate all of those numbers. So if you've got funky things going on, like that situation, making money on shipping, or it's like a consignment situation, like you can modify those numbers to reflect your profit accordingly. All you'll need to know is how it works. And again, how it works is sale price minus everything else that you enter. Great question. Can you schedule delist and relist? Not just yet. You listed an item and it sold after 10 minutes. Nice. When you marked it as sold, you had to change the date sold or the date of listing. Yes. So that's a security measure, anonymous attendee. Basically, Vendoo thinks if you listed it and sold it the same day that you didn't, right? Because it doesn't happen all the time, unfortunately. So that's a security measure that it made you confirm. Can the revenue you make on shipping be, okay, sorry, I'm reading these out loud. Do you need to delist and relist? Yeah, okay, I answered that. What if you've entered the sale and then realized you don't have the item and you have to cancel the order? You could, that's a great question. So you realize you don't have an item, you've entered the sale. You can always create a copy of that listing so that it goes back into drafts. And then you'll delete the one sold after so that your analytics and inventory management can stay up to date. I'm going to move on to analytics. I know there's a ton of questions I haven't answered. I will cover those at the end, but I want to make sure we get through all of this as well in respect for everyone's time here. So let's talk about analytics. These analytics are really cool. When we just marked an item as sold, you saw how Vendoo knows what we're selling, where we're selling it, how quickly we're selling it, what our profit is, etc. And with this information, Vendoo can give you really powerful sales data. You can customize your analytics date range that you'd like to look at by day, week, month, year, or even custom. In this case, year to date and month to date are the same. Here you get a full overview of all of your sales stats and activity across everywhere you sell, even the platforms that aren't yet on Vendoo. So looking at mine for January, slow month over here at 4 Limes, you can see your total revenue for the period and your total profit. These graphs are all hoverable. So you can even scroll over a particular day, like my best looked like a 158 in profit. Here you can see the number of items that you have sold during that period, listed during that period, and your average sale price. We also make comparisons to the prior period. So I'm personally up 29% in selling, down 40% in listing, and I'm down 16% on my ASP. And that's compared to the same range in December. Now is when it gets really cool. We break it down by marketplace. The colors on these graphs are the colors of the logos of the websites. How cute. So very clearly, I'm a posh girl. You can see that most of my profit, in fact, 71.3% this month was from Poshmark. We have Depop in second place. And again, you can hover over to see these. The yellow is fake. This isn't a real sale. We just did this together. I'll have to remember to delete it. This shows falsely that I profited $10 on whatnot. I'm glad we left that in here though, so I can show you how other platforms perform. You can also see your average sale price by marketplace. And again, here are the actual Vendoo platforms, and we separately calculate non-Vendoo platforms. You can also see your sold volume by marketplace. So here are the 44 from Poshmark, and down here's the one from Grilled. I've also sold on Instagram and apparently whatnot this month as well. In addition to all of that, we also show you your top selling categories, subcategories, and brands. with totals and itemizations of each. Now, this information is not only very cool, because it is cool, but it's also super helpful. I am never not surprised by these numbers, and I have been trying to use them very strategically to help me scale and grow. We all only have so many hours in a day and so much that we can do. So putting right in front of my face where to focus my time and energy is the most valuable personalized business insights that I can get. And if I switch up my listing strategy or my sharing strategy or my offer strategy, I can literally see if those changes are paying off because I can see the comparisons to the prior periods. What's even cooler is that you can sort by label. So multi-quantity labels, for example, are always tagged automatically with this multi-quantity label. So if I want to see how those items are doing, I can get those stats here. So far in January, I've sold 5 multi-quantity items for a profit of 107. I've sold them on 2 marketplaces. And here are my top selling brands. My wholesale brand, Disney, and mystery boxes. Another great example for this would be by source. So I told you I had purchased some boxes from Cozy Threads. Let's look at a longer period. So I think I got these boxes in May, I want to say. So I'm actually going to look at May until now. So looking at that, I happen to know that I spent $250 at Cozy Threads. So it's very cool to see that I turned that so far into 658, but I've only sold 34 of the 153 items I got. So I can track that specific lot to see how those are performing. I can also see the marketplace revenue profit tracking and all of it for that too. Another cool example is by consignment client. Here are stats from the items from this client. If he'd like to work with me again, I can see if this is a good business venture. The point is that you can sort your analytics by custom label. That also means that you can sort by your multi-quantity because we note that with a custom label. Before we take questions, and I'm going to take all that you have for our remaining time, I also want to give everyone a preview of what's coming in 2023 because there are big things. As you know, we have a Vendoo mobile app. The Vendoo mobile app is in beta, which means it's still a work in progress, but it is coming along quickly and wonderfully. And our development team is devoted 24/7 toward making that app as amazing as our desktop version, if not better. In fact, the app is so far along that it's so exciting that because for the first time, we're seeing the Vendoo users that came to us on the app. Because the app is new, so many of us have used Vendoo forever on the website and might not be using the app, but now we're coming into users that have never been to the website. Our app is compatible enough to allow them to list, cross-list, delist, and relist, and mark as sold right from the app. Upcoming features to the app include Citizen. That will be released momentarily. It could be as we speak. It is complete and tested and ready, if you will. We're simply waiting on the App Store approval. The next platform to come to the app will be Shopify. After that, Facebook Marketplace will be the only one not yet on the app. And of course, that's a priority here as well. You'll see the app also has coming soon analytics and listing templates. With those last additions, the app will very much mirror the website, except it's your on-the-go version for anywhere you are. The app's as easy to use and user-friendly as our website is, but you can check out our help center for your step-by-step screen share tutorials, many of which I created that walk you through how to use the app like the website. Coming to Vendoo in general in 2023, of course, includes Vestiaire Collective. You might know that Tradesy was acquired and shut down, or soon will be. They disabled the ability to list Tradesy several months ago, so for our intents and purposes, it's gone. The team is actively working on Vestiaire Collective. We do not have release dates for any of those things. I know you want to know. I know you want an idea. I know you plan around it. The release date is always ASAP. As soon as we can possibly create a working, tested, perfect product to you, I promise we won't stall a second to give it to you. If you want more timely updates, be sure to join our Facebook group. That is the first place that you will see updates. You'll also notice them from time to time in your inbox or even right in the Vendoo platform. One other huge thing that we are excited to announce in 2023 will be more automation. More automation of tasks that you need to do to make more sales that we are finding ways to do for you so that we can continue to be your reseller's best friend. I am going to take all of the questions that you have, but I also, before I do and get into that, I want to thank everyone here so much. The question and answer box is booming. The chat is booming. I'm going to make sure I take even more questions, but I really appreciate everyone coming today. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you, now that you've learned a deeper understanding of these tools, will learn how to use them even more specifically to your workflow and your business to save you more time and make you more money. So a huge thank you for being part of Team Vendoo and for joining me today. And now let me take some questions. There are so many. Okay. How do you handle inventory management for unisex items that you listed twice? Oh, this is a screen share one. I have to show you because I love that Vendoo can do this for me. Let me think of an item that I have listed twice. Disney. Okay. So this is how I handle unisex items. And I love that Vendoo lets me do this. Okay. So this is the same item. Here it is modeled on me, the women's version. And here it is on a hanger, the man's version. Now, eBay has unisex. It's the only one that does though. And even so, it's not super searchable because they have to be searching under unisex. So I list a ton of items twice. I'm a vintage seller, so like t-shirts are all unisex. I list them twice, and that's a little risky game I play, right? Because I have to make sure that when the women's sells, I go and delist the men's from everywhere, and I delete it. I also have to make sure that I can exclude these items from inventory reports because they're twice. Vendoo has you covered with the notes. Here it says cross-listed men's, women's, this is women. Cross-listed men's, woman, this is men's. When I sell one, there's no way I'll forget this giant note icon is there. When I download my spreadsheet, I search by CLM/W and I exclude all of those items as they appear as duplicates. So that's a little in the weeds there. We're getting really like into the Vendoo features, but it's cool to share things like that with you guys because Vendoo gives all these tools. It allows you to do things like this, to use it in creative ways to your benefit, to organize you. I learn things from sellers every day when I have these live calls. We host live calls twice a week, sometimes more. And I learned cool ways to kind of use Vendoo personally for things like that. So I'm really glad that you asked. You have your depth pile in a number spreadsheet. Can you import that as a CSV into drafts? No, we don't have that compatibility. But it would be cool if we did. If you took the time to put it in Vendoo though, and just moving forward always did, you'd be golden. You imported from eBay. Is there a shortcut to adding cross-listed items from Posh and Mercari other than the URL? That's a really good question, Kathleen. So just to be clear to anyone listening, this user said that she's a brand new Vendoo user. Welcome. She imported from one platform, and now she's kind of faced with the process where she has to mark things as listed. Because after importing from Poshmark, she has to mark as listed on Mercari and eBay. Imported from eBay, mark is listed on Mercari and Poshmark, and now she's finding herself having to paste a lot of links. There isn't truly a shortcut. I'll give you a bit of personal advice. It sounds a little bit daunting, but when I was a brand new Vendoo user, I was already cross-listing too. And after a little while of pasting links, I decided that it wasn't worth my time to paste links. And I actually cleared out my Mercari. Just cleared it out. I deleted it all. And I just cross-listed it fast with Vendoo. Because in the same amount of time it would take me to find the Mercari item to paste the link, I could just cross-list. And my way, I had brand new listings, which perform really well. So it sounds super daunting and like crazy to say just delete everything, but it's an option. You might think about it and consider the implications and decide if it would work better for you. Slightly personal, but how do you log your profit when you sell on consignment? You're guessing I would change the cost of goods. Yeah, so that's there's two ways to log consignment in Vendoo. One would be to change the marketplace fees to reflect more fees, so your profit's lower. But I personally do what you said. I put the cost of goods a little bit higher. Great question. You wish you could put the purchase date instead of the date added to Vendoo. That is, I see quite a few suggestions in here. And like I said, we love suggestions. Let me give you the link. Sorry, it's taking a moment. All right, so this in the chat right now is your suggestion link. I love hearing your suggestions. And I certainly report to my team at Vendoo what's highly requested, but I'm not as important as the product team because they create these things. They log how many requests are made and they consider each and every one. So don't sleep on that link. If you have a suggestion, we want to hear from you. It's in the chat. I'm going to type it like 3 more times consecutively so that it doesn't get buried because that tends to happen in chats. Now you can't miss it. There you go. In the automation effort is auto offer on Mercari and development on the roadmap. So I'm pretty sure you mean smart offers where Mercari will auto accept based on your minimum price. And yes, the development team is aware and will incorporate that feature. Will you ever be able to delist and relist in the mobile app in bulk the way you currently can on the website? The goal is to create as good of an app experience as the website. So I hope that's a feature coming out soon. For right now, it's just individual on the app. You saw that I have a label that says listing video. Are you able to add a video to Vendoo? Not yet. Although we understand that so many platforms are adding video and that video is so important that the videos sell. So feel free to use that suggestion link. I actually personally executed it with it as Erin, the user, I put, because I would love to see that too. I think if a picture is worth 1,000,000 words and 1,000 words and a video is worth 1,000,000, it's highly requested and I wouldn't be surprised to see it come soon. Is there an easy way to log bundle sales? This is such a good question. Okay. There are 2 ways to log a bundle sale. And we have a Help Center article about this, by the way. We have a Help Center article about everything. So I'm actually going to show you that real quick. I'm actually one of the people that personally works in the Help Center to make sure that we have a Help Center article about everything. So where am I here? Share screen. Sorry, my Vendoo screen isn't showing up as one that's available to share. The perils of going live. I'm so sorry. Thanks for your patience. I've never experienced this happen. Okay, we're good. Let me, I opened a new tab. You can see my Vendoo screen, right? Someone let me know in the chat because that was intimidating. All right, I'm operating under the assumption that you can see my Vendoo screen. Okay, cool, you can. And the question was bundles. And no, what I wanted to show you was Help Center. So I know this sounds corny and I know it's so much more fun to go on Facebook and ask, but if you want the quickest response ever, especially when you're listing in the middle of the night, we have the most searchable Help Center ever. Our team works really, really hard on this. So if you want to know, how to handle a return in Vendoo, you can type that in and here's some on eBay specifically, and here's how to handle a return in Vendoo. We have the step-by-step screenshot instructions, videos for a lot of them. We have it all. So definitely check out the one about bundles, and it describes the 2 ways to handle them. So first is you might choose to make a new listing in Vendoo, right? If I sell 3 of my own items in a bundle, I might just choose to create a listing. Does it use a listing? Yes. but it's easier. They're my own items. They were all acquired in the same tax year. I'll treat it like one thing. I would change my cost of goods super quickly to reflect all three costs of goods collectively. I'd mark it as sold. I'd go delete the individual items and call it a day. Well, if we're selling consignment, or if we want to be really meticulous, that's not necessarily an option, because you will need your individual profit on each item. So this gets a little bit confusing, but let's say you sold a bundle of 3 items that were originally priced for $100 and you sold them for $80. Okay, so you offered 20% off. What you would do is you would go in and you'd consider 20% off the price and mark them as sold for that. So 20% off each item. That would perfectly articulate each item's like actual sale price, actual fees, and you divide the shipping by 3 if you chose. So you could handle them all separately if necessary. You could also blog them all together. You could also do something in between, where you're not creating a new listing for the bundle to use one, but kind of accounting for them all just in one. So those are kind of the 3 different ways that you might handle bundle sales, but it does vary depending on where you're selling to. Because, for example, new bundles on Mercari does treat them as individual. Even on Mercari, it just collectively does shipping. So you have on Mercari your actual details for each. Hope that makes sense. Should you list each size separately on Vendoo, even though Poshmark lets you list multiple sizes? So this is a question about multi-variation. That's a great question too. I have a Help Center article and a video. Check it out. Type in multi-variation. That explains different ways to handle this as too. It's up to you. So I have items in multiple sizes and I treat them like they're all their own listing. If I have a shirt in small, medium, and large, I list the small with the quantity, I list the medium with the quantity, and I list the large. In my mind, I'm getting 3 times the exposure. Now, if I had extra small, small, medium, large, 2X, 3X, 4X, 5X, 6X, if I had tons of variations, a better example might be earrings in 30 colors. I would not necessarily want to have that many Vendoo listings in my inventory. I might instead choose to make manual changes. And when you do make manual changes, I might choose to use a multi-variation label and use the notes. Hope that makes sense. These are great questions. They're really in the weeds. And I love that, because that's what we're here for, to like get deep into these features. I just hope I'm being super clear. Okay. When delisting and relisting, it's hard to see the errors at the bottom of the page. There is a scroll button, so you can scroll. Just make sure you're clicked right in that window so that you can see it. On eBay, does the delist and relist have the same effect as sell similar? A delist and a relist is a brand new first time listing. Because Vendoo hosts and stores your information, we post it as if it's being posted for the very first time ever. That is the best thing that you can do anywhere, because it's a first time listing. Now, eBay does auto renew listings. My best advice, because your eBay store or your lack of store might not allow for you to list too much there each month. My best advice, my daily activity, is to look at items ending that day and delist and relist just those. Because they were going to auto renew anyways. So I was going to be charged essentially for the listing on eBay, but the new listing will do even better than that. All right. Consignment, I answered that. You sold an item. Okay, I answered. Oh, you sold an item sitting around your house. Would you put the cost of goods as 0 or what you originally paid for it? It's really a matter of personal preference. I personally own an LLC, so I buy the item from myself. I recently pulled items out of my own closet, and my LLC paid me, Erin, for the items so that I can get a cost of goods. And so that my documentation is meticulous. Depending on the type of business you have, I mean, in any type that you're operating, being meticulous is great. If you're ever audited, having everything, doing things correct and by the book is important. So I do that. Is it always necessary, the level of attention to detail I show? I'm not sure. That's another great question for your your tax specialist. All right, bundle, I answered that. Can you go back and enter your purchase date? So the date, you could in the notes. is the answer. The date that you created the listing will show as your purchase date in Vendoo. You could always handle that differently in Notes if you chose. All right. And I think that I got most of these questions, and we're making really good time. If you have any more questions, I invite you to join our Facebook group, Team Vendoo. If we could get the link right to our Facebook group in the chat, please. We are there all day. Now, if you have customer service related questions about your account specifically, about an error message that you're receiving, we will direct you to customer service. And it's not because we don't want to help you. Trust me, we do. We love you. But it's because they can pull up your account. They can look at your action history. They can help you with your device. They are trained specialists in helping you with those things. So a lot of times our questions, we have to refer right to them because that's the best thing we can do for you. But if you want to chat with other users, you have reseller questions, you have experience questions, comments, etc., those we take and discuss all day long. So either way, join our Facebook group. You'll catch me in there, and you'll see all the posts that we post. We do fun things, and it's a great place to talk to other users. You know, for example, see how other people use these labels. All right. Well, I have all the questions. Join us in our Facebook group if you'd like to see more. Be on the lookout for our high value tax information that we will be publishing very soon. If you are brand new here, thank you for coming. Don't forget that every Wednesday tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have a full Vendoo tutorial. So we go over every single Vendoo feature and we talk about all of them. Thursdays at 11 a.m. are a casual coffee chat. You can chat with me, Team Vendoo, and other users, ask questions, share info, make suggestions. Those live calls happen every single week. You can find the link to those on our Instagram or our Facebook group. Be sure to contact customer support if you have any specific account questions. Catch me in Facebook with any questions for me. And thank you again. I hope that 2023 is your best reselling year ever. And I hope that the Vendoo tools and resources help you to organize all the boring business stuff so you can do fun things like source. Bye, reseller friends. I'll see you next time.